Hey, what's up guys, DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a P.U.N.K deck profile. So I'm really excited this for you guys because P.U.N.K is one of my favorite decks to be able to play with all the amazing combos that this deck can actually pull off. Being able to summon out some insanely powerful boss monsters like Psychic End Punisher, which we finally have in the TCG, just takes this deck to a whole new level. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in a single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon, along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of P.U.N.K Deer Note. This card is a great 3-up for the deck. It has the ability to reveal one other P.U.N.K monster in your hand, and then special summon either the revealed monster or this card, and send the other to the graveyard. And if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, then you can target a P.U.N.K monster in your graveyard except a level 5 monster and special summon it, but you cannot special summon P.U.N.K Deer Note for the rest of the turn, and you can only use each effect of this card once per turn. This card is great in the deck to get some of your monsters out on your side of the field and even bring them back from the graveyard with this card's effect. We then play 3 copies of Foxy Tune. Foxy Tune is a great card for the deck and one of the most powerful cards in the main deck that has the ability that once per turn, when this card destroys an opponent's monster of a battle, then you can gain life points equal to that monster's original attack points, and you can only use each of the following effects of this card once per turn. That you contribute a P.U.N.K monster to special summon this card from your hand, and you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, and then send one other card from your hand to the graveyard, and if you do, you get to special summon out any P.U.N.K monster from your deck except a level 8 monster, which is really good to get the exact one that you need from your deck to your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Ogre Dance. Ogre Dance is a great 3-of in the deck that has the ability that once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can make this card gain attack equal to that monster's original attack, which is a really good effect to be able to just gain all sorts of attack points and get this card absolutely massive. And you can only use each of the following effects of this card once per turn, that you contribute a P.U.N.K monster to special summon this card from your hand, and you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard and then add a P.U.N.K monster from your deck to your hand except a level 8 monster, which is really good to get to the exact P.U.N.K monster that you need. We then play 3 copies of P.U.N.K Xiamen. Xiamen is a really good 3-of searcher for the deck that has the ability that you can pay 600 life points and add a P.U.N.K monster from your deck to your hand except another copy of this card, and if this card is sent to the graveyard, then you can target a P.U.N.K monster that you control and it gains 600 attack points, which is really good to help you go in for game and make some of your P.U.N.K monsters absolutely massive. We then play 2 copies of Madam Spider. Madam Spider is actually the trap searcher of the deck that has the ability you can pay 600 life points to add a P.U.N.K trap from your deck to your hand, which is a really good effect. And then we play a single copy of Wagon. Wagon is a good 1-of that searches the P.U.N.K spells by just paying 600 life points. We then play 2 copies of Shirakusai. Shirakusai is basically a walking polymerization and a synchro play, which is really good during the opponent's turn, because it has the ability that you can pay 600 life points to fusion summon a P.U.N.K fusion monster from your X deck using monsters from your hand or field as a material. And then during your opponent's turn, quick effects, you can pay 600 life points to immediately after this card resolves, you get to synchro summon a P.U.N.K synchro monster using monsters that you control as a material, which is really good to go into cards like your Amazing Dragon during the opponent's turn. We then play 3 copies of Psy Reflector. Psy Reflector is a good tech card for the deck that has the ability, if this card is normal or special summon, you can add an Assault Mode Activate, or one card that specifically mentions Assault Mode Activate in its text from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. And then you're going to reveal an Assault Mode Activate in your hand, and then target one monster in your graveyard that specifically lists it, and then you get to special summon that monster and increase its level by 1 to 4, which is a really good effect to get to the exact level that you need, which you're usually going to increase it by 3 to make it a level 7 so that you can go for a level 8 synchro play with just this card and your copy of Assault Beast, which is the card that you're going to be searching from the deck that you can then discard to add Assault Mode Activate from the deck to the hand. We then play a single copy of Plague Spreader Zombie. Plague Spreader Zombie is a good 1-of to summon off your Needle Fiber so that you can go in for all sorts of really awesome plays and make some really insane plays, like going into your copy of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity with Needle Fiber, this card, and a copy of the Chaos Dragon, which is really, really cool to be able to lock down your opponent's entire turn. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is just a really good hand trap to be able to stop the opponent from touching the deck. And then 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, which is actually an E-Telly target for the deck to be able to put on your side of the field, and a great hand trap to stop the opponent by popping their cards. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn is just a great extender for the deck to get the exact card that you need on your side of the field when you need it. And this card comes in very handy, especially with cards like Foxy Tunes sending themselves to the graveyard, getting you another level 8 on the field so you can go in for all sorts of really good plays. We then play a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave just basically stops the opponent from hand trapping us, so this card is a great one-of in this build. We then play a single copy of Wild Picking. Wild Picking is a great card for the deck. I really like this card in the build to be able to search out with your copy of Wagon, and it has the ability to, at the start of the damage step, if your Punk monster battles an opponent's monster, then you can destroy that opponent's monster, which helps you get through all sorts of really powerful monsters that your opponent has on their side of the field that can be destroyed by card effects. So this card is a great one-of in the build. We then play 3 copies of E-Telly to round out the spells. E-Telly is just so good in this deck to let you special summon out any of your psychic monsters onto your side of the field that are level 3 or lower. Is just absolutely insane because all of your level 3 Punk monsters are actually psychics. So this card can summon out any of them to your side of the field to get the exact one that you need onto the field when you need it. So that's it for these spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing a single copy of Assault Mode Activate. Assault Mode Activate is basically here just for the Assault Mode package that we're playing in the deck to be able to get out a copy of the Chaos Dragon so that you can go in for all sorts of really good plays. We then play a single copy of Surprise. I've bumped Surprise down to 1 because it is so searchable in the deck, but it has the ability you can target a set card your opponent controls, or if you control a Punk monster, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls instead and destroy it, which is a really good effect to just give you basically an interruption where you can pop a card. We then play 2 copies of Dangerous Gaboo. Dangerous Gaboo is really good in the deck because it's basically a negate that's searchable that lets you target an effect monster that your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of the turn. Then if you control a Punk monster, you can gain life points equal to targeted monster's original attack points, which can help you out a lot to gain life points in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence to round out the traps for the deck. Infinite Impermanence is just really good in this build to be able to stop the opponent's monster effects while also locking down columns for your opponent's spells and traps. So Infinite Impermanence is a definite 3-of in this build. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Psychic End Punisher. I'm so glad that we finally have this card. This card is a card I've been waiting on for the boss monster of this deck, and it's just so powerful that it has the ability, it takes a tuner monster and a non-tuner monster. So any monsters that you want to put in this card, but usually it's going to be a level 8 and a level 3 that you're going to be using to make this card. But it has the ability that while your life points are less than or equal to your opponent's, this synchro summon card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. And then once per turn, you can pay 1,000 life points and then target one monster that you control and one card that your opponent controls and banish both of them. Then this card also has the ability at the start of the battle phase, you can make this card gain attack equal to the difference in your life points and your opponent's, which is really good because it doesn't say it loses those attack points. So this card goes up and stays up, which is really, really crazy because this card is just absolutely massive. I'm so glad that we finally have this card. We're then playing 2 copies of Amazing Dragon. You really could get away with 1 copy of this card, but I really like the second copy of it because it does come up every so often, but it has the ability that if this card is synchro summoned, you can target cards your opponent controls up to the number of level 3 psychic monsters with different names that you control and in your graveyard and return them to the hand. And you can also target a Punk monster in your graveyard, except another copy of this card, and special summon it, but you can only use 1 effect of this card per turn and only once that turn. We then play a single copy of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. This card is basically a walking cold wave, and it's super easy to actually make in this deck, because this card has the ability that when this card is synchro summoned, you can activate this effect that for the rest of the turn, your opponent cannot activate cards, and also cards your opponent controls cannot activate their effects. Basically, basically turning their entire turn off, which is really, really crazy. It also has the ability that your opponent cannot activate cards and effects in response to this card's activation, which makes this card a speed spell 4, which is just absolutely crazy. That if this card destroys a monster at battle, you inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack points, and if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card or by battle, then you can target one level 8 or lower Dark Dragon type Synchro monster in your graveyard and special summon it back to the field. So this card also replaces itself, which is just really, really crazy. If you can get a copy of your Chaos Dragon on your side of the field, Plague Spreader Zombie, and a copy of Needle Fiber, you can make this during your opponent's turn by using the effect of Needle Fiber to bounce itself off the field, make formula, draw a card, and then Synchro Summon the 2 Tuners and the 1 Dark Dragon Synchro monster into this card to be able to make that really powerful, crazy monster. We then play a single copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is just a really good card to make in this deck, to have as a generic level 10 monster. And this card is really good because it's a walking negate. It can pop a card every single turn. But if you want to play a little bit more of a budget card in this position, you can play the Sword Soul level 10 monster in this deck. We then play a single copy of the Virtual World QB. This card is basically a walking macrocosmos because any card sent from the field to the graveyard is banished instead, which is a really good effect that can completely shut down certain decks. We then play a single copy of the Chaos Ruler. Chaos Ruler is insanely powerful in the deck and super easy to make. It has the ability, if this card is Synchro Summon, you excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you do, you get to add 1 excavated light or dark monster to your hand, which is really good, but you send the rest to the graveyard, which is really good because it gets you a card from your hand, from your deck to your hand, which is super powerful. And you make this card with the Assault Mode package, and then if you have a copy of, say, the level 3 Xiamen on your side of the field, you can then pay the 600, grab Foxy Tune, and then go for Needle Fiber off the card that you summon off of Foxy Tune's effect, and then make Needle Fiber, summon Plague Spreader, and then synchro this Formula Synchron and your copy of Plague Spreader into this card, which is, or into your copy of King Calamity, which is really good. We then play a single copy of Borreload Savage, which just gives us an additional negate in the deck, which is really good. And then finally, we play a single copy of Formula Synchron for the Tuner monster, or for the Synchro monsters. This card is really good because it helps you go into that copy of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity during the opponent's turn. It lets you draw a card, and it just is a really good one-of in the deck. We then play a single copy of 38. 38 is really good in the deck because it can negate spells, and you make it with any 2 level 8 monsters. We then play a single copy of Rising Carp, which I am playing my misprint one, which is really cool. I love this card. It's super cool, and it's just a great combo piece for the deck. Let you tribute this fusion summon card, and then you can special summon out 2 punk monsters with different names from each other from your hand or deck, which is really, really helpful because now we have Deer Note, and we have the cards like any of your level 3 tuner monsters to make a copy of a level 8 synchro monster, which is really cool. We then play a single copy of Appaloosa because it's super easy to put multiple monsters on the field to then go into this card and give you multiple monster negates. 1 copy of Unicorn to spin stuff. Needle Fiber because it's just super important in the deck to be able to make this card and then go in for your copy of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. And finally, an IP Masquerena so we can make our copy of Unicorn during the opponent's turn and spin stuff, which is really cool. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's super fun to be able to play. I've been playing with this deck a lot recently. It's super fun to be able to play, and I've been playing Punk since release, and this deck is just at a whole new level, especially now that we don't play Auroradon in the deck. It's just really, really interesting, all the different combo lines that you have, like going into that copy of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend is just really, really crazy, and what Deer Note has brought to the deck is just really, really good. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there soon come our notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.